Hey pals, welcome to Dev Tips. My name is Travis Nielsen and this is the last video in this series called CSS Basics. So far in this series we've talked about basically what is CSS, we've talked about cascading nature of CSS, selectors, properties and values, advanced selectors. We've talked about specificity and even we've talked about last week CSS3. This week, we're going to talk about something that I normally wouldn't throw into a basic series, but it's something that's become so ingrained in the way that we use CSS professionally that you're going to need to know about this. That something is called CSS Preprocessors. Pretty cool, huh? So here's like the elevator pitch for using a preprocessor in your workflow. Let's say you're making a website and you declare a brand color and use it to style links and headings and a few other things. And you've done so about 100 times throughout all the styles. Let's say you want to change the color just a little bit and tweak it. You have to run through all the styles and change them one by one. You could just use a variable, and that way you can make a small change here and it will show up everywhere else that you define that variable. Pretty cool, huh? So how does this magic happen? Well, here's the basic idea. Your browser still needs traditional, regular, everyday CSS to render all of the websites that you see across the internet. But really smart people have invented a way that we can write more useful and intelligent and beautiful styles that do all kinds of crazy tricks and then run them through a program that outputs normal everyday CSS that your browser needs. Pretty cool, huh? Alright, here are a few other things that a preprocessor will give you. Imports. Alright, this may seem kind of obvious, but the real power here is that all these separate documents that we create can be collected together and output as one single document. This is a huge deal when you consider that every CSS document you link to in the head of your HTML is a separate HTTP request, which is a request to the server, which is a request that the browser needs to download, and it's a load for the user. If you can make that just one request, one download, and the browser will probably cache it after the first time, you win. Pretty cool, huh? Also, this liberates us to be liberal with the way that we structure our code. You know, these days I don't really think twice to make a new document to style a new module or something like that on a larger site. I'll make a video later about how I organize my style files, but this importing feature plays a large part in how and why I do it. So it's pretty cool, huh? Nesting. Nesting is a really cool thing that helps you write code that feels very modular. It helps you think about the relationship of the HTML elements. I like it because it just feels natural, fast, and makes a lot of sense. When you're switching over to a preprocessed language, this is probably the first feature that you'll be messing around with.
Pretty cool, huh?
MIXINS. MIXINS are kind of like functions in JavaScript in the way that they are actually reusable blocks of code. Now, like the functions in JavaScript, you can pass arguments to them that will affect the output of the code that you use in the mixin.
In this example, we have a mixin that helps us write the new Flexbox styles really easily. After we have the mixin, we can use it by adding this simple one line to our style document. And the output is this beautiful and easy cross-browser compatible CSS.
Functions. So functions are like little kind of guys that are built into the preprocessors. They'll let you to do like fun little things like, for example, take a color and change its tint by 10%. So in that example, you don't have to really figure out what the color is for the button when you hover over it. You can just change it to be 10% of what the first color you defined was. Math. You can do mathematical operations, right, in your CSS styles. Things like, simple stuff like add and subtract. You can divide and multiply. It's not as useful as it is in JavaScript because JavaScript can actually read the DOM and count the elements or dimensions of objects and perform mathematical operations on those things. This can't because remember the final output of this is just static CSS.
But I thought this was really cool / weird. What is the color pink minus 50? Yeah.
So it's got that going for it, which is great. Okay, that was just a really quick look at the functions that a preprocessor can give to you, and like, let me just tell you, there's a lot more, and they're super useful, and I can't really think about styling a larger site anymore without using them. I'm sold. I will never turn away. They are incredible and they are awesome. But you'll notice in this video, I have purposefully not identified any of the preprocessors by name because I wanted to talk about the functions in general, and now I'm going to talk about them individually, introduce the most popular three that I am kind of familiar with, and a little bit about each one. Let's do that. Less. The first one that I came across a few years ago, and the one that I suspect is the most popular, is one called less. So you create .less files and it outputs, after you run the program, it outputs .css files. I think less is the most popular one because it's the one that Twitter Bootstrap uses. Less was also the first one of these preprocessors to maintain the original syntax of CSS with all its like brackets and semicolons. Now I think this was really smart of Less in marketing it to programmers because you could say things like, oh, the code that you're writing right now is actually valid Less, so just you can ease into it, just start now and in baby steps. I chose to learn Less first because back then it had the best looking website, and I guess I'm just really fickle like that. Sass. Sass came a bit before Less, and it was a lot more aggressive in the way that it marketed itself to the coding community. Sass thought, you know, hey, if we're going to be rethinking the way that we create CSS, let's really rethink the way that we create CSS. The original version of Sass stripped away curly brackets and semicolons and instead relied on line breaks and indentation. After Less came out and became really popular really quickly, I think Sass kind of understood that people were just afraid of change or something, and so they came out with another version of Sass called SCSS, and it does the same thing as Sass except for it lets you keep those curly brackets and semicolons. And this like really helped people to feel more comfortable with the whole idea of preprocessing, and I think, this is just my observations, but I see a lot more Sass now because of SCSS. And although I get why people like the curly bracket versions of these preprocessors, you know, it's comfortable and familiar, I really, really like the indented flavor of Sass. It's really beautiful to read, it's easy to read, and it's maintainable. All you have to do is just indent or outdent to nest things and level them in scope. Oh, it's so great. And hey, Sass lets you mix the flavors that you're importing into your final project. You can like mix them in and they'll just output just fine. So my challenge to all you people who are kind of a little nervous about trying the indented flavor, just use one document and import it in, and you know, in your SCSS project, use an SASS file and import it in and see if you like it better. That's what I did. I just tried it with one file like last year, and wow, it was so much better. It took me like 10 minutes to get comfortable with it, maybe less. And now I just swear by it. It's so great. And there's also really great functions built into Sass. When it compiles, it can switch. You can switch a whole project from SASS to SCSS. It's even like, you could even have, you know, if you're working with a team, you could have your version of SASS, and then you could switch it over to SCSS, like with one little command. It's really, I'm rambling, but you should try it. I also like Sass a lot because it has really awesome extensions, things like Compass and Bourbon, and I'm not really sure if Less has equivalent things. I'm sure they do by now, but I know that Sass does, and I know that they are awesomeness, so they've got that going for them, which is nice. And also they got purple branding and a new website, so I can get behind that now. Very cool. Stylus. And lastly, I'll talk about Stylus, which I've never used in a big project yet, but they have probably the best website and it looks really nice. So here's what I do know about it. Stylus is really unique in the whole bracketed versus indented things in that it doesn't really care. You can write indented flavor of Stylus and a bracketed flavor of Stylus in the same document and it will just read it just fine. I don't know how it does it, and that's kind of cool, but that's what it does. That's one of the things it does. Okay, that's it for like the introduction of preprocessors. We'll definitely spend a lot more time on them later, but I'm really excited to share them with you because this is really a big part of my everyday Cody work, and you're going to be seeing me use Sass a lot more in the examples that I do on this channel. So get prepared for that, and we'll talk a lot about that more in future videos. Also, I'm excited to say that this is the last video in the CSS Basics series. Now, I love talking about the basics. I think fundamentals are fundamental. But I'm really excited also to dive a little bit deeper in the near future, so look forward to that. If you have any questions, like I didn't explain anything very well in any of these videos, or maybe even I got it wrong, please let me know in the comments below. I want to know what you guys think and where you need more clarification. Right now, I'm interested to know if you guys use CSS preprocessors, and I want to know which ones you like and why. If you learned something you like in this video today, please share it with your friend. And please subscribe to the channel because I have so much more to share with you, and I want you to know about the videos when they come out. P.S. It's every Monday, but subscribe anyway. Girl, I want you to know that you can subscribe to my channel, my channel, my channel. Girl, I want you to know that you can subscribe to my channel, my channel, my channel.